Cassie Ventura's story, which first captured the tabloids as a bright young R&B ingenue and cover-girl model in the mid-2000s, has taken a harrowing turn into the darkest recesses of fame and power. Best known simply as Cassie, she exploded onto the scene in 2006 with her sultry debut single, Me and Amp, You, accompanied by photos that blended girl-next-door charm with high-fashion edge. At just 19, she was signed to Bad Boy Records, the empire built by Sean Diddy Combs, and touted as the label's next superstar. But behind the gloss of photo shoots and studio sessions lay a decade of coercion, control, and violence that Cassie has spent nearly as long trying to escape, and, only now, to expose. In November 2023, Cassie filed suit in Los Angeles Superior Court, accusing Combs of a systematic campaign of physical, sexual, and psychological abuse beginning in 2005, when she was just starting her career. In the 25-page complaint, she detailed instances of manipulation so methodical it read like the blueprint of a predatory cult leader. She alleged that Combs introduced her to party drugs, ecstasy, MDMA, ketamine, and the date rape drug GHB, from the moment their relationship turned romantic. Under the influence, she was easier to isolate, easier to control, and left with growing gaps in her memory. She described how these drugs were weaponized to disinhibit her and deepen her dependency, leading her into a cycle of physical and emotional collapse. Cassie says that starting around 2007, Combs began orchestrating disturbing events he called freak-offs, multi-day gatherings in private residences or luxury hotel suites, where she was coerced into engaging in sexual acts with male escorts while Combs watched, directed, and recorded the encounters. These events, according to her, were not spontaneous but deliberately planned, often involving multiple individuals, potent drugs, and disturbing levels of control. He would later show the videos to friends and associates, she testified, to reinforce his dominance over her and his access to what he saw as property. As time went on, the abuse allegedly escalated. When Cassie began experiencing chronic headaches, anxiety, and disorientation, symptoms now linked to trauma, Combs reportedly arranged for her to undergo MRIs and cognitive evaluations. What made it worse, she claimed, was that he gained access to her private medical information, using it to both gaslight her and reinforce her belief that she couldn't survive without him. She often felt numb, dissociated, and confused, unable to fully understand the depth of her trauma until years later. One particularly brutal incident occurred in 2016. According to Cassie, after Combs discovered she had spoken to another music manager about her career, he erupted in a violent rage. He allegedly dragged her to a Los Angeles hotel, beat her with his fists, stomped on her ribs, and left her swollen and bleeding. To avoid any public scrutiny, he checked her into a private suite under a false name, where she was instructed not to leave until the bruises faded. Investigators now believe this incident was captured on hotel security footage that Combs allegedly paid over $100,000 to obtain and suppress, ensuring no one would ever see it. In 2018, when Cassie finally began making steps to leave the relationship, the abuse reached what she called its most terrifying moment. She testified that Combs broke into her home late at night and raped her, an act she described as the culmination of years of intimidation and psychological captivity. She said the incident left her feeling as if she might not survive if she stayed, but might also be killed if she left. Around that time, she had begun a relationship with rapper Kid Cudi, which further enraged Combs. In one of the most shocking claims from her legal filings, she said Combs threatened to blow up Cudi's car. Not long after, in a widely reported but then unexplained incident, Cudi's car did in fact explode in his driveway. While no formal charges have been brought linking Combs to the explosion, a representative for Kid Cudi later confirmed that the incident occurred just as Cassie described. Cassie also testified to how Combs systematically isolated her from the outside world. She said he controlled every aspect of her life, dictating what she wore, who she spoke to, and where she could go. Her personal and professional independence were steadily eroded. Friends and family were pushed away, and even her career was sabotaged. She claimed Combs routinely delayed or blocked her music releases, canceled meetings with producers, and derailed collaborations with other artists who might have helped her break free from his influence. The more success she pursued, the tighter his grip became. Although the initial lawsuit was settled within days, the public nature of Cassie's claims triggered a wave of investigations that quickly took on a life of their own. By early 2024, federal authorities had opened a sprawling criminal case, building on Cassie's testimony and unearthing corroborating stories from multiple women and former employees. The U.S. Department of Justice charged Combs with sex trafficking, racketeering, and obstruction of justice, charges that, if proven, could result in decades of prison time. Prosecutors alleged that Combs maintained a criminal enterprise in which staffers, enablers, and industry figures helped him recruit, manipulate, and silence victims over a span of more than a decade. Combs has denied all allegations through his attorneys, calling the claims outrageous and offensive. Nonetheless, he was arrested and remanded without bail in 2024, and has remained in federal custody since. The trial, which began earlier this year, is expected to last several more weeks. Cassie has already taken the stand as a key witness, undergoing hours of testimony and cross-examination. Prosecutors say her testimony is foundational to the case, not only because of her direct experience, but because it illustrates a clear pattern of behavior that other witnesses have echoed. Her account, backed by texts, photos, hotel records, and medical documents, paints a chilling portrait of a man who weaponized his fame, resources, and network to terrorize the woman he claimed to love. Despite the trauma of reliving her experience in court, Cassie has remained composed and resolute. Legal experts have praised her willingness to endure such a public trial, especially when many high-profile survivors never get the chance, or choose not to face the scrutiny. Cassie's story has triggered a cultural reckoning that goes beyond her personal experience. Brands, industry insiders, and former collaborators have distanced themselves from Combs in a stunning fall from grace. Several business ventures have collapsed or been frozen, while major radio stations and streaming platforms have quietly limited the promotion of his music. Longtime industry allies have either gone silent or have publicly stated their support for Cassie and other victims. What makes Cassie's testimony so powerful is not just the disturbing nature of her claims, but the years of silence that preceded them. She explained that she feared for her life if she ever spoke out. Combs, she said, constantly reminded her that he could ruin her, or worse. That fear kept her captive for over a decade. But now, with the world watching and others joining her in solidarity, Cassie's decision to tell her story is forcing a long overdue confrontation not just with Combs himself, but with the systems that enabled his behavior. Her courage has already inspired a ripple effect. Advocacy groups have rallied behind her, and the conversation about abuse, power, and complicity in the entertainment world has been reignited. The trial may ultimately mark a historic turning point in holding the powerful accountable, especially in an industry long criticized for protecting its stars at the expense of their victims. For Cassie, and for many others watching, this is more than a court battle, it's a fight for recognition, justice, and healing after years of silence. Cassie's story isn't just about one man's abuse of power. It's about the culture that allowed it to thrive unchecked. For years, silence was survival. Now, her voice is a weapon, and it's shaking the very foundation of the music industry. As this trial continues to unfold, we'll be watching, because the truth can't stay buried forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this video powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We're bringing you more stories that expose the hidden truths behind the fame. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and never stop asking questions.